Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Friday, our regular Facebook live transmissions with me, Magdalena. I'm the founder of Hormones Balance. And today's going to be a little bit different because I'm also going to be using slides from the Estrogen Reset program, which we're giving you a free preview of the program for most of the content. By the way, I just got this in the mail. That's our Estrogen Reset Cookbook that you're getting for free when you start watching the preview in the first 33 days or 72 hours. You're basically getting the book as part of the fast action. We call it fast action bonuses. Totally new recipes that you haven't seen before. You have the superfoods here, what's going to help. And then, the difference with these recipes is compared to my other books is that they are stuff that we as a team make every day in our kitchen. And that was my brief to the team who was helping develop the recipes, is that I want to work with things that are really like this, the way I would make lunch for myself, meaning, for example, I'll go to the kitchen and I'll have pre-roasted some sweet potatoes, I'll have sweet potato, I'll have some sauerkraut, I'll have some broccoli sprouts, maybe some piece of protein, right? It's just putting things together rather than be spending hours and hours. And I find like a lot of times in cookbooks, the recipes aren't very realistic to be cooking on a regular basis. So, and with this, you get a 2-week meal plan here as well. Okay, I can't tell you how excited we are. It just like feels so good. It's my 4th cookbook, and 4th, yes. Okay, so what I would love to do today is I want to talk about the different types of estrogen dominance. And you'll be surprised that there are 3 different types. And why is it important to know it is because knowing which type is your problem is going to give you a different path of what you can do to correct estrogen dominance. Okay. So before I get going, Jean, can we post the link to Estrogen Reset, where to sign up? So all you have to do is just sign up, and then we'll take you through the 5 days. We'll open up content for you every day for 24 hours. Works like exactly like online summits. And you're going to learn a ton. What is estrogen dominance? What causes it? What foods what are the superfoods and anti-foods to estrogen dominance? What are the symptoms of estrogen dominance? And most importantly, what can you do right away to help yourself? Because, as you know, this is that's my big passion point, is to help 1 million women reverse estrogen dominant symptoms. So let's dive into my slides. I haven't done this in a long time, so I'm hoping that it's gonna work just okay. And Jean, if you could let me know via Skype whether you can see the slides being displayed. I'm just going to wait for a couple of minutes because there's a bit of a delay. So before she answers, then I'm going to get going. Also, yesterday, I did a whole video on symptoms of estrogen dominance. I'm going to cover them very quickly today, but I went into a lot more details yesterday. So if you are curious if that's you, and quite frankly, 90% of women I know who are my friends, clients, former clients, or currently women in our community, because I don't coach anymore, have some level of estrogen dominance going on in some form or another, or some are more pronounced than others are not. So that's the reason why I'm so passionate about this topic, because I feel like it's a really underserved group of women who really need attention, which is like 90% of us. And the good news is that unlike adrenal issues or Hashimoto's, it's a far simpler imbalance to correct, okay? So, and then when I finish the slides, then I'm gonna get out of that and take a look at some of the questions you guys are posting. And then so we're gonna do a live Q&A. So Jean, again, if you could help me post those questions into Facebook so that I can, seems to be a connection issue. Okay, so that's not great. I might need to start this over. Let me just quickly go into Facebook and take a look at my page if I'm still streaming, or are we having a technical difficulty here? Okay, so it looks like I'm streaming, so that's okay, right? Yeah, okay, so I'm just gonna keep going because it looks like it's good. So I'm gonna display the slides on full screen, so hopefully that works. All right, so let's just dive in. And those are slides from the Estrogen Reset program, and I just simplified them a little bit. So the first thing I want to say about estrogen is that let's not demonize or fear estrogens, because like even the term estrogen dominance is just like dominance, such a negative thing, right? Something is taking over, it's dominating you. Like this Godzilla that's coming over, it's gonna eat you up. And the truth is that we need estrogens to function, So like I wrote here, we need it to be a woman. Our boobs, our cycles, our breasts, the fact that we have nice soft skin, the fact that we are feminine, all of that is attributed to estrogen. And so we don't want to be demonizing estrogen. We need it. The question is, like I wrote at the last point here, it's about the right balance of the different estrogens, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And also, how are you breaking these estrogens, whether you're breaking them down properly. And we're going to dive into that as well. So just very quickly, in case you're new to this, sorry, I'm just going to take a quick look what Jean is saying, whether I should keep going or restart this. Okay, it's working now. Awesome. So for those of you who missed maybe my transmission yesterday, I'm going to go over what are the symptoms of high estrogen. Typically, we have things like PMS or dysmenorrhea, which is heavy pain before your periods, heavy bleeding and postmenopausal bleeding, spider and varicose veins, especially like around your face, cellulite, heavy periods, but also irregular periods and absence of periods here, breasts, cysts, and ovarian fibroids. This would also be fibrocystic breasts will be here, lumpy boobs, right? Irritability, mood swings, and anxiety. Headaches, migraines, particularly before your period, or sometimes also mid-cycle. Fat around your hips, that's a famous one. Women who are pear-shaped, that's your typical estrogen, very estrogenic woman. Been using birth control pills. So this is not so much of a symptom, it's more of an aftermath, right? Thyroid nodules, the big one. History of thyroid cancer, history of lung cancer, also estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, bloating, puffiness, and water retention, lumpy and fibrocystic breast, I already covered that, endometriosis and painful periods. Endometriosis only grows, the tissue grows because estrogen is dominant, especially those bad metabolites. Fibroids, gallbladder problems, or you have had your gallbladder removed. And I talked a lot more about this yesterday. So if you missed yesterday's talk about symptoms, I talked about like for half an hour, then go back to on the page or go on the videos and look for that Facebook Live yesterday. Brown facial discoloration, so things, melasma, so it's like browning, like I have it here, you can have it here on top of your lips, pretty nasty stuff. Allergies and hives, okay? And then you have, in men, before I forget, prostate issues and men boobs are also attributed to high estrogen. And then we have symptoms of low progesterone, which are slightly different. So they can be same as high estrogen, plus you also have things like insomnia, midnight waking, infertility, miscarriages, mid-cycle spotting, anxiety, and restlessness, okay? Because progesterone, it's first of all, it's a calming hormone, and that's why when you have too little of it, you can't fall asleep, stay asleep, and you get anxious. But also, it's, as the name implies, progesterone, progestation, that's what allows us to get pregnant. So infertility or miscarriages can result from low progesterone levels. Oh, before I forget, also mood swings, hot flashes too. So, and many of you, I know those of you who are going through perimenopause and menopause, you're struggling with a lot of hot flashes. So this could be due to low progesterone. And I want to differentiate between those two. The reason why, like I said at the beginning of this video, the reason why I want to differentiate between what type of estrogen dominance do you have is that it will take you on a different path of what do you want to do to fix it, okay? And I'm all about fixing it. So this is really where the meat of the presentation today is about. Estrogen dominance can happen in 3 different scenarios. First scenario, I'm just kind of using relationship descriptions to make it easy for you. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail in just a second. Is why I say the scenario 1 is when you have too much of the bad guy. Okay. And in this case, it will be too much of estradiol. And by the way, estradiol by itself is not a bad guy. It's just having too much of it is where the problem begins. Then scenario 2, you have what I call the ugly breakup. And that's when we have too many of the dirty estrogens. And again, in a second, I'll show you how that happens. And then scenario 3, you have unbalanced partners, which means that estrogen to progesterone ratio isn't all that healthy. And that's what needs to be corrected. So give you an example here from these 3 different scenarios. let's say you're experiencing a lot of estrogen dominant symptoms and you go, well, I might as well get this progesterone that Magdalena is often talking about. And then you start applying it and use it for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you're like, my symptoms ain't going away. She doesn't know what she's talking about. This thing doesn't work. The product is shit. Right? Well, the truth is that it's not the product is bad or you did something wrong, or that I don't know what I'm talking about. The truth is that it's just that progesterone is not your problem. It could be that your problem is scenario 1 or scenario 2, which is your dirty estrogens, or you have too much of the bad guy, in which case the way to then resolving it is to bring in dietary changes to support your gut and your liver, because that's where estrogens get broken out, and or add in some supplements like DIM, sulforaphane, calcium diglucarate, which speed up how the breakup is being done. So a little more details in just a second. So let's dissect a little bit the first scenario. The 3 different types of estrogen, okay? And so I know this can get a little bit techy, but just stay with me because I want you to understand the concept. Like you don't have to, repeat after this, like what's what. And so the first one is estrone. The second one is estradiol. And the reason why I made it red and high is because it is the highest amount of estrogen that we have. It's more prevalent, especially in menstruating women and also menopausal women. And then you have estriol, which I'll show you in a second what's happening there. So estrone, E1, is the so-called the weaker estrogen, higher in pregnant women and menopausal women, okay? And then we have estradiol, which is E2, also known as the aggressive estrogen, is the highest in premenopausal women, so cycling women, and excess of which has been linked to breast cancer, okay? And then we have estriol, which is the protective estrogen. It contributes to healthy, youthful skin, keeps the vagina moist and lubricated, prevents hot flashes, night sweats, plays an anti-cancer role. So as you can see, it's really fascinating, isn't it? That a lot of times people go like, oh, don't eat flaxseed. Believe it or not, we get sometimes, I mean, and I'm laughing about this because I'm never taking anything personally, but we get this very agitated email saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Estrogen, because flaxseed, you're suggesting for women to eat flaxseed, and flaxseed is highly estrogenic. This is incorrect information. You're doing harm to women. And my answer to this is very simple. First of all, if I wasn't sure that this is going to work, I would never suggest it. But number 2 is that, yes, it is true that flaxseed is a phytoestrogen. It contains naturally occurring estrogens. But guess what? Those estrogens are not the bad estrogens at all. In fact, if anything, flaxseed helps us to break down the estrogens, which I'll show you about that in a second, in a tremendous way. So it is, as you can see from here, not all estrogens are bad. And it's not like flaxseed is going to jack up your estradiol, the E2, aggressive estrogen. In fact, when I was first diagnosed with estrogen dominance about 8 years ago by my doctors, because I had a lot of hair loss that wasn't thyroid related, and she measured the metabolites. And what she did then was, all I did as an experiment, just for 1 month, I went on to just eating 2 tablespoons of freshly ground flaxseed every day that I add to smoothies or salads or whatever. And I have to tell you, like, the estrogen dominance thing completely shifted much more towards estriol. So this is where it's really important to remember that not all estrogens are bad. Let's not demonize them. It's just how you break them out. Now, so bottom line here, estradiol is basically too powerful here. So too much of the bad guy that is basically has taken over, right? It's like you go to a dinner party and you have this one person who's like this big loud mouth and domineers the whole conversation. Have you been to a dinner party like this before? This is the kind of person that I'm talking about, right? So that's your first scenario. So I hope that's easy to remember. The bad guy at a dinner table who's just too loud and obnoxious. Okay, let's talk about scenario 2. Scenario 2 is when you basically have the way you're breaking down estrone. So let's take a look at here. I know it's a little bit of a technical chart, but this is a screenshot from Dutch. For those of you who've done Dutch, it's for those of you who don't know Dutch. Dutch is a urine test for all the different hormones, including estrogens, and specifically here, what we are looking for, because that's one of the ways of determining estrogen dominance, is to look how your body takes estrone, remember that the so-called weaker estrogen, and breaks it up to 3 different metabolites: 2 hydroxyestrone, and then 4 and 16 hydroxyestrone. Okay, so those are 1, 2, and 3. Now here's the deal. The first one, the number 2, is your protective one. Okay, the second one is, the 4 and the 16 are potentially harmful. And so we know today from a lot of studies that have been done, including women with breast cancer, is that the 4 and the 16 tend to be on the higher side. So the bottom line to this scenario here, they're broken down unfavorably, and this is your ugly breakup, right? You break up with someone and it's just basically more of the negative feeling rather than there is a positive feeling. The cool thing about this scenario, and this is where I talk a lot more about it in the Estrogen Reset program, which I really want to encourage you to go through the 5 days of content and learn something from there, is that, and I cover liver there too, is that the liver and your gut health are the 2 most important bodily systems, if you will, that will help you, let me go back here, that will help you shift the balance towards the number 2 hydroxyestrone, the protective one, as compared to producing too many of those harmful ones, okay? One of the things that, in the digestive module I talk about is that one really interesting study that came out is that women who have, they analyze women who have breast cancer, and they've compared their microbiota, which basically is the microbiome, the gut bacteria in their gut, and the variety of bacteria they had, and they compare it to a healthy woman, and they have found that have a significantly lower diversity of bacteria of the microbiome. Really interesting, right? So fixing your gut and especially broadening your bacterial spectrum in your digestion is going to be one of the ways it's going to help us how we break down those estrogens and having more of the protective one. Okay. All right, how are you doing so far? Does it make sense so far to you guys? I'm in full on presentation mode, so I can't see your comments yet, but I will go to the comments in just a second. I hope this is helpful so far. So scenario 3 is your estrogen to progesterone ratio. So let me show you here what is happening. Why is that an issue? Let me show you, first of all, so actually let's just analyze this slide. So this is a woman, right, age 20 and then all the way to 70. And then we're looking at how much progesterone she has and estrogen here. And then as you can see, over time, they are declining. When you reach the 45 mark, like the way I am, I'm 46 today. And I'm beginning to feel like, yes, I am going into perimenopause. You can see your hormones are beginning to kind of go a little crazy. And then, as we go into menopause here, they basically everything goes is significantly lower. But here's the problem, right? So you can see a woman who is, for example, 35 here, her estrogen to progesterone ratio is pretty even. And by the way, this is a conceptual slide. This is not, don't go and look at your lab work. And again, lab work is like somebody asked yesterday, what are the right ranges for estrogen and progesterone? Truth is that, first of all, it depends whether you're measuring it through blood, urine, or saliva. Different ranges. And I don't like ranges because I really like to look at ranges in combination with symptoms, because your ranges can be showing you that you're okay, but you're just not feeling okay. You're highly symptomatic. That's because that range is too wide, and it could be that in the range you need to be higher on this side or that side. Can I just disturb this transmission and show you this little guy here who has been very patient with me during the Estrogen Reset program launch, and yeah, he's just had a little treat. Thank you so much for being such a good sport. Yes, do I get a kissy? He get a kissy. Okay, and we're gonna go for a walk, I promise. Okay, so back to here. As you can see, there is a certain even and balanced proportion of estrogen towards progesterone. Now, so let's take a look at a woman who's, let's say, 55 years old. Can you see how, even though both of her hormones have been reduced, right, and that's normal, can you see how her estrogen is still so much higher as compared to progesterone? Okay, you see the difference here? Let me just put my mouse over here. How much more estrogen she has as compared to progesterone, okay? And this is the reason why a lot of women are very confused and write to us and saying, it doesn't make sense. I am low on estrogen. I can't be experiencing estrogen dominance. Yes, you can, because it is the estrogen to progesterone ratio that might be incorrect, even though your hormones are low. Okay, so I hope that this, for those of you who are going through perimenopause and menopause, this has made it clear and why that is such a big difference, and why estrogen dominance is still very possible. And that's why this estrogen reset as a program is really can cover everybody from young girls who are not having their periods, whatever is the reason, and then all the way to menopausal women, and you can still have estrogen dominance. And that's the complexity, I guess, of the. So the bottom line here is that you have too little progesterone to oppose estrogen. And that's what I call the unbalanced partners. Let me see if I kept this. So I just want to go back to this unbalanced partners issue, is because, estrogen and progesterone, let me just take a quick look if I kept this slide here, because I didn't want to just make this presentation too long. Okay, yeah, it is, I do have it here. So let me just jump straight into this. So it is about the balance for sure. And I want to show you, like how I said estrogen and progesterone are like partners, right? There's an example of really good partners. This is actually a Nicole who used to work with me. She was my first assistant. She's a professional dancer today. So with her permission, I'm using the photo. She's absolutely gorgeous. This is her and her partner dancing. As you can see, if he lets go of her, she's gonna drop, right? And without her, he looks like this boring dude. I hope he never hears this. But the point of the matter is that estrogen and progesterone are exactly the same way. They need each other in order to function. I will give you an example here, like what are their opposing and complementary functions, if you will. So for example, estrogen creates the endometrium, right? And where progesterone maintains it then and thickens it. Estrogen stimulates breast cells, okay? And then progesterone, on the other hand, protects against fibrocystic breast, and it reduces that. Estrogen increases body fat and weight gain, where progesterone helps to use fat for energy, right? Estrogen, salt and fluid retention, causes salt and fluid retention. So for those of you who have a lot of water retention in your limbs, especially around your period, that's because it's too much estrogen, or you're not breaking down that estrogen very well, where progesterone is a natural diuretic. And the list just goes on and on here. I'm not gonna go through the whole list, but you get the idea here, right? So, to me, the greatest news about estrogen dominance is that it can be rebalanced naturally pretty easily using food, herbs, and supplements. It's a pretty inexpensive way of correcting it, for two main reasons. I think number one is to regain the quality of life you want, because you want to have a fantastic life, right? That's not plagued by all these crazy symptoms. Save yourself money from all these supplements that you're taking and all these diets you're going on. You can't figure out why are they not working. And number three, which somehow I'm very passionate about, is that because a lot of my family members have passed away from estrogenic cancers, and I talked about it yesterday, and that's the breast cancer. So estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, not all cancers, but specifically estrogen receptor positive, as well as uterine and ovarian cancers, all estrogenic cancers, thyroid cancer as well, although most of the time it's not deadly. Lung cancer in women who are non-smokers can also be due to estrogen dominance. So, that part of the reason why I'm so passionate about doing this work is because I just want to really see women not go down that path. When you go into, a lot of the different cancer resources and you say, what causes breast cancer? They go, the causes are unknown. And I say, bullshit. I mean, there is so much of research, for those of you who are joining us for Estrogen Reset, the full program, there is a whole medical resources document that my researcher and I created. There's tons of research showing you how broccoli sprout can help, how flaxseed can help, how sulforaphane can help, how calcium diglycerate can help, how cruciferous vegetables have an efficacy for, they're killing breast cancer cells, the stem cells of cancer cells get killed by sulforaphane that's found in broccoli sprouts. Why are more people not talking about that? I don't know. But anyway, so that's why I'm doing this work. For those of you who are joining us a little bit later, we have a new cookbook out called Estrogen Reset, How to Rebalance Natural Solutions for Estrogen Dominance, my 4th cookbook. And this is obviously self-published, and you're getting this for free for those of you who are joining us for the program within 72 hours from the time you start watching it. So, and Jean has already posted the link. Okay, so that's it, what I have for slides for you for today. Let me go over to Jean. If you could stop posting questions, that will be okay. So yeah, if you could post questions from today that we have. Hey you guys, I'm gonna be doing like a live Q&As on Sunday. So a lot of your questions because sometimes you ask questions that are not related to what I'm talking about today. So I just want to be super focused on what the topic is and stay on it. And so for those of you who are posting something that is really great, but then I will be answering those questions on Sunday. Donna's asking, is that your birthday? Actually, it's not. My birthday is in January. Pamela Lawson is asking, is that why I'm getting hot flashes? So Pamela, hot flashes are actually two main reasons. Three reasons actually. Dropping estrogen dominance, so too many of those bad guys that I talked about, the ugly breakup or too much of the bad guy. Too low progesterone. The last one could be blood sugar balance. A lot of our hot flash ladies will say that the minute they regulate their blood sugar levels, they change their breakfast, which, I teach so much about different types of breakfast and how to do what I call a PFF kind of breakfast, protein, fat, and fiber-rich breakfast. Then that way, you're not going to have those blood sugar balance. Why is everybody wishing me happy birthday? It's not my birthday, people, but thank you. Very thoughtful of you. I wonder what that is. Do I look like a birthday girl? Okay, so Jean, am I getting any questions here? Are we having any live questions on this one? So I think I've answered a lot of things already, including like the whole issue with why am I having menopausal, like I'm in menopause and I have estrogen dominance. I hope you're clear on that now. One of the most, the other thing is another very common one that maybe I will address while I'm waiting for Jean to pose these questions, is that a lot of people ask us, you recommend like cruciferous vegetables, because one of the things you're going to learn in estrogen reset is you're going for free through the program on day, I think 5. I have this presentation now sharing with you on anti-foods and superfoods for estrogen dominance. And you're going to learn like how, so things like cruciferous vegetables and flaxseed and there's 15 of them, right? And what's, so a lot of people ask like, why are you, so I think I've addressed flaxseed already, right? Like why flaxseed, even though it's full of estrogen, is actually a good thing for you. And then the other question we get a lot is, you're asking me to eat cruciferous vegetables, but I have a thyroid problem. Cruciferous are going to kill my thyroid. Yes, so that's one of my big pet peeves, and that is bloggers who copy paste from other bloggers without fact checking and causing a lot of fear and unnecessary confusion. So anybody if you follow Dr. Isabella Wenz, Dr. Karazian, Dr. Ellen Christensen, who are all thyroid gurus, they all will tell you that they do not cause thyroid failure. In fact, they're actually going to be beneficial for you because guess what? Estrogen, another thing I forgot to mention is that when you're having estrogen dominance, the conversion of T4 to T3 hormone, and for those of you who are on thyroid medication, or even like anybody who's having a low thyroid function, the conversion is inhibited when you have too much of estrogen, okay? So that's why a lot of times women who have estrogen dominance also have a lot of thyroid problems. And so cruciferous vegetables are not gonna kill your thyroid. The only thing that are what they call goitrogenic would be soy. That's the only thing that can possibly, there's some small studies that show that can slow down thyroid function. Don't eat soy, it's as simple as that. And cruciferous vegetables raw, if you're not tolerating raw, I'm always a big fan of cooking them in the first place. And so you're gonna be really, it's gonna help you with bowel movement. They are nutritionally much more dense as compared to like zucchinis, cucumbers, or lettuce. Get rid of those and incorporate all the cruciferous vegetables. They're gonna help you with estrogen dominance. The conversion of T4 hormone to T3 is actually gonna improve. There's really no, if anyone of you can just send me a piece of research that shows that cruciferous vegetables are gonna kill your thyroid, I'm all the way ears, but so far nobody has done that and I haven't found a single one. Okay, Kimberly's asking, should I be taking DIM on an empty stomach? Yeah, sure, you can. One question, one thing this is actually a good question about just generally about supplements. I'm of this opinion and stance. My whole motto of arranging your food, herbs, and supplements is this, and I use it like a triangle. At the bottom of the triangle, I say food is first and always, then it's herbs is often, supplements and sometimes, and right at the peak there is, which is the least amount, is medications only when needed. And the reason why I do that is because food is always going to be the foundation of everything you do. And so I feel like DIM has a place, sulforaphane has a place. They can help different liver pathways with detoxifying estrogens. So does progesterone. But if your diet is still highly inflammatory, like you're still eating gluten, you're living on sugar, coffee, eating dairy, right, et cetera, then taking DIM alone ain't gonna help. And so just remember that food is first and always, and that's why we have such a big resource for this program, and that's the cookbook, right? So Yelena is asking, what is the reason for night sweats? So similar to hot flashes, I already mentioned that. So it's low estrogen, the ugly breakup estrogens, low progesterone, or blood sugar balance can be the causes. So if you fix any of those, it's going to go away. Robin Keith is asking, how do you know if you do not have enough estrogen or you are postmenopausal? Okay, so symptoms, you know how I didn't cover this here. I do cover, if you go to, Jean, let's post the link to our quiz. If you go to hormonesbalance.com/quiz, Robin, then you will see the symptoms of low estrogen. But just very quickly, low estrogen will be beginning to, like, your skin starts sagging, your periods are beginning to be very irregular, scanty, and disappearing, forgetfulness, hot flashes, memory loss, a lot of irritability, weight gain, because estrogen also does help with weight loss when it's in the right amounts. And so that could be, so it's just you going by symptoms and a lack of period. Marisol is asking, Marisol Arriaga is asking, what causes melasma and how do you get rid of melasma? Yeah, Marisol, so I talked about in the symptoms video yesterday a little bit more. It's predominantly estrogen dominance. I used to have a lot brown spots around my, right outside, on top of my mouth and my lips. And my ex-husband used to joke that I was growing a mustache. If you come closer, it wasn't, but from far, it did look like it was a mustache. So that could be one way to do it. And I have found that doing topical stuff alone doesn't help unless you correct your estrogen dominance. Priscilla is asking, is this more of a hormonal issue? The doctor said, oh, my hormones came back balanced. Yeah, so that's a really good question. And that's a very common comment from a lot of, sorry, you guys, I have a puppy who's been in a house for the past 3 days. And so I just want to entertain him a little bit because we've been so busy with the launch. And as you know, we had a bit of a challenge with the launch on Wednesday, one day premature. So yeah, so this is a good point, Priscilla, because a lot of times we are told by a doctor, everything is okay. Part of it is because they test your steroid hormones through blood, which is pretty useless. And I have found a lot of women to be super symptomatic, and they basically never, blood work just doesn't show it, right? And so they go like, well, everything is okay. So what's really important to remember is to always tune into your symptoms. And if you're showing a lot of the symptoms that I talked about here, then it's something to consider. If you have additional cash to test and go and do Dutch, you can order a test on yourlabwork.com/hormonesbalance. They're giving us a special deal. Jean, if we can post that there as well. And if you don't have the cash, then I'll say, just go by your symptoms. They are very, very telling. Donald is saying, I spent 10 years in breast cancer, and there are several papers on nutritional treatments and prevention, but you will never see mainstream medicine publish it. And then they are part of the studies. They know this. Yeah, they do. But like you said, it's, it's just buried. And how many people go to PubMed, right? That's where all the studies are published, and this is where I get my stuff from. Rifki Bergstein is asking, how do I know if estrogen is my issue, or maybe my issue stems from thyroid adrenals or from being low on nutrients? If we can't use my lab results as estradiol as a marker to see if I'm estrogen dominant, as you said. How do I know what to start and what to tackle? So Rifki, the first thing you can do is take the quiz that Gina's gonna post that we have, and then see what is the thing about, you know, my approach is that you will see that when you enter estrogen reset is that we start off with what I call the foundational protocols, which are 3. You start off with your gut, your liver, and your blood sugar balance. And you will see that a lot of different, even if you have other hormonal problems, such as maybe high testosterone or low testosterone, or you're having thyroid problems, right? You will see that a lot of your hormonal problems are gonna resolve just by following that protocol, because it really is, you know, I often use the analogy of, for those of you who garden, we're in spring now, many of you are, you know, heading out to the garden. Any gardener would know that your plant would only be as healthy and produce much of a yield as the soil that you have worked on. And the soil would require fertilization, you have a good manure, you know, maybe some fish fertilizers as well. And, you know, and when you fertilize your soil really well, anything grows really well. And I found with hormones is the same thing. When you take care of your gut, embark on an inflammatory diet. This is what the whole cookbook that we have is free of estrogen. It is, but free of dairy. Gluten is very low in sugar, and free of nightshade vegetables. We don't use any soy in it, right? When you do that, then a lot of things just start really improving really quickly. Dana is asking, is there info in a hormone balance cookbook? So Dana, the cookbook itself has recipes and meal plans, and what are the 15 superfoods that we use to build our meal plans and recipes, but it doesn't give you like a lot of the additional information that I'm talking about right here, because it's just a cookbook. Kimberly is asking, what if you're taking tamoxifen? Yeah, so you can do all the dietary changes. It absolutely is not going to interfere with tamoxifen. Yelena is saying, I've done seed cycling and it seems like I'm not doing well with it. My eczema is worse. So are seasonal allergies. Is this program will be beneficial for me? Great, really good question. Thank you for that. So yes, it will be, because the reason is that, can I just show you Charlie right here? Look at this little guy. Oh, you know, he's like, where's my mommy? I lost my mommy to this program. Anyway, sorry for the distractions, but just, you know, trying to be like a mama, doing a balancing act. So yeah, so the cool thing about, you know, about, sorry, what we were talking about is seed cycling. Yeah, so, you know, seed cycling is not for everyone. Seeds can be inflammatory for some people. Like, for example, if you're doing AIP, you know, then like in AIP, all seeds are removed. So when you're doing paleo for autoimmunity, you can't even do seed rotation during this time. Seed recycling is phenomenal for a lot of women, and it's a simple fix, but it's not for everyone. And that's part of the reason why I developed this program, is that when seed rotation does the work for you, then what? And this is where we teach you a lot of other things that you can do. Support your liver. How do you improve your biodiversity of your bacteria in the gut so that you can break down those estrogens much more effectively. Melissa is asking, how long would it take to see a change when you change your food intake? Yeah, so Melissa, it depends on where you are and what are your symptoms and, you know, how toxic a person can be. So it's, you know, we've had women like within the first week already saying they've lost a few pounds and they're feeling better, they're already sleeping better. And some other people would need a month or two. So I would say it could be really between a week to 3 months. Natalie Walker is saying, I can't get your estrogen kit because you don't ship to the UK. There are any info on herbs in the program I can use to help liver? Yeah, we do. Instead of using supplements. Natalie, yes, we do. And, you know, you can buy DIM and sulforaphane in different forms in the UK as well. So, you know, so yeah, don't buy our estrogen kit, the supplement kit, just get the supplements in the UK. But the whole program is really educational. It's not about, you know, selling you a bunch of supplements. Linda is asking, what do you suggest for 60-year-old menopausal women on hormone replacement, E2, E3, and my blood serum labs show non-detectable for each estrogen and progesterone for years. Working with functional medicine doctor and getting nowhere, waiting for Dutch test results in 2 weeks. Any suggestions? So Linda, my question to you would be, how much work have you done in the things that the foundational protocols that I talked about? Like, how much have you changed your diet, made it anti-inflammatory? How much alcohol do you drink? How much sugar is there present in your life? You know, the interesting thing about hormone replacement therapy is that how well these hormones also get, because remember, you're putting out those hormones in, they still need to be broken down, right? And how well they're getting broken down, it will all depend on the health of your digestion and the health of your liver. And this is where, you know, the question is like, what have you done to support your liver, right? Those are some of the issues. Linda, why don't you go through our content on estrogen reset? It just takes you 5 days. Every day we open 1 or 2 videos that are very easy to digest. They're not very long. I just made it on purpose, really short and easy, and see whether there's something that you can do that you maybe haven't done yet. All right, you guys, I wanted to keep this video short, and I hope this is helpful. If you have more questions, come on for on, when is that? On Sunday, I'm going to be doing that live FAQs with everyone, and then you can ask even more questions. All right, I hope this was helpful. And the bad guy, you remember that obnoxious guy at the table, the bad breakup with the bad boyfriend and the unbalanced partners has made sense to you and has given you a little bit more direction, if you will, of what you can do to start fixing your estrogen dominance. I hope to see you, more of you on the Estrogen Reset program, and I'll see you tomorrow and on Sunday.